Okay, I am going to record the session. So this is just a disclaimer to let you all know that I am recording the session. And so I'll be sharing the link with Crystal so that she can share it maybe with others who weren't able to join. So I'm Cheryl Bridges. I'm the founder and CEO of an organization called Bridges to Life, which is a faith-based life coaching and temperament counseling organization where I help individuals, couples as well, really understand, help them to understand who they are so that they can become who they want to be through temperament counseling, through life coaching, it might be relationship coaching, a variety of different things. So that's me. So we are going to talk about self-care. So if I asked you all to define it, how would you define self-care, Crystal? What would you say?
I think it's really all about recognizing that there comes a point in life where you need to kind of take care of yourself. And it's three folds to that. It's your physical being, your emotional well-being, your mental well-being. And so
Mm,
all of those three things for me kind of work together. One is out of balance, all of them are out of balance. Kind
yeah.
of feeling like where you are in each one of those spectrums of your life and what you need to do to kind of create balance in all of those areas.
And apparently it's really important to you, right? Which is why you have launched Journey to Me, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
All about self-care. Any of the other ladies, what's your definition of self-care?
Trying to take care of yourself so you can take care of others.
Hmm.
Mm,
You know,
mm, I
sometimes you
like
have other people like your caregiver or whatever, and sometimes you just let everything go and you kind of deteriorate while the other person is doing better, and so you stop to take care of yourself so you can all be whole.
I really, really like that. Because something I say all the time is, as women, especially as Black women, we are just nurturers by nature, and we are always caring for somebody, right?
Yep.
And
Right.
that's okay. That's just who we are. But in order to do that, I always say, we cannot pour from an empty cup because if our cup is empty, there is nothing to pour. But as women, I really believe our cup needs to be overflowing because we're always pouring.
Boy.
So if we're always pouring, at least if our cup is overfilled, we're still going to have something left for ourselves.
Right.
We have to really, really keep, us as priority, and that gets hard to do sometimes. Um,
That's very hard to do
is
for
it
me.
why is that so hard to do?
Um, for me, all my life, I've always been the oldest kid, the one who had to take care of everyone else,
Mhm.
the one to do for everyone else. And it's not until recently, um, I got a job in Richmond. My family still lives in Virginia Beach. So I got an apartment in Richmond and I have, it's been a year now, but one weekend out the month, it's just my weekend to take care of me. And
Mm,
I have to admit, it took me a minute to get used to taking care of me.
mhm, mhm.
And I got so used to taking care of everyone else.
But it's never too late. And I'm so glad to hear that even now
Yeah.
you've made time for that.
Yeah. I
Hmm
had no choice. My body,
Hmm.
for me, my body breaks down on me. I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis
mm
and my body, and I just took it as a way of God telling me, sit down.
Yep, he'll do that. Sometimes it's the hard way, but he has to
It's
get through
right.
to us. Yep.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing that. So here, this definition of self-care, the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being. And Crystal, that's what the word you use twice, well-being
Hmm.
and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. And
Mm.
that's really the key. Because I think, is it Miss Thomas? I know your name is not what it says on the
You
square.
could just say Etta.
Etta. So, like Etta was talking about, especially in times of stress, if our bodies, if we're not taking care of them, they will break down. Our bodies are like a rechargeable battery. If they don't get charged up, it's gone. It is absolutely gone. So taking an active role in protecting our well-being, an active role means we have to make it happen. Like we just have to make it happen. I think Etta, you said once a month now. You are
Yep.
focusing on you. So it is very, very, very important. Because as women too, I think a lot of us believe that the shirt or the sweater, whatever we wear every day has a big S on it for Superwoman. And I don't see nobody's name on here that start with an S today. So,
No.
but we really think that we are super women,
Yeah.
but we cannot do everything. So what are some ways to protect your well-being before we start talking about my 5 ways? What are some ideas to protect your well-being?
One of the ways I learned the hard way is keeping up with my appointments, taking care of my physical self, the doctor.
Mhm.
Because when I was caregiving for my mother before she passed in 2011, I let myself go. And even after she passed, I didn't go to doctors for a couple of years because her doctors were my doctors, and I just couldn't do it.
Mhm.
But I learned now, it's important if you love yourself. First, you got to love yourself, but you also have to do those mammograms and those appointments. And just like Etta said, she got diagnosed with rheumatoid. I got diagnosed with osteo arthritis. So, and now I walk with a cane, and I try not to harp on the past, but I feel like I'm just blessed to be where I'm at, still walking. But had I paid attention a little bit more, maybe things would have been, I wouldn't known, I would have been able to prepare more. So,
So you started taking an active role, just like it says here.
yes,
You
yes.
realize I have to do it. Yep. Any other ways that anybody wants to share of protecting your well-being?
I think what we just talked about on Clubhouse, Cheryl,
Mm,
creating and putting in place boundaries.
okay. Yep. So we're going to be talking about that one.
Mhm.
Yep. So let's talk about the first way. There are so many ways to care for your inner self. And the reason I'm saying inner self today too is because I think we already know a lot about caring for our exterior, whether we're conditioning our hair or whether we're taking a long bath and getting massage and we're listening to music with candles. I love all of that stuff. Crystal knows I just did a two-day self-care by myself getaway. So I could do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's important, but if our inner self isn't together, we can do all this outer stuff and still just be dying on the inside, right? So that was really why I wanted to focus on inner self today. So the first way that I want to talk about is learn to say no. And the hard part, even harder part of that is saying no without an explanation. How hard is that? Like, because I know I'm guilty of, well, Crystal, I can't because, I'm so busy and I have to take my son. Well, Crystal don't need to know all that. She just needs to know I'm not going to be able to do it.
Right.
So I'm sure you've heard it before. No is a complete sentence. It is okay, but it's hard for us. Why is it hard for some of us to say no? Some of you to say no, if it is.
Well, it is for me because I just felt like I was always raised to be there to help, it's just always me. I've always said yes.
Are you still? Yes.
Yeah, I'm not as bad. Again, being up here, I've learned to say no more often than any other time in my life. So I'm slowly getting there.
Okay, it's all about progress. And that Steve Jobs quote there, I really like. He says, it's only by saying no that you can concentrate on the things that are really important. And that's so true because we put ourselves, we sacrifice everything and don't get to do anything that is important to us. And, when we're not focused on the things that are important to us, that's when we get stressed and that's when we get anxious, because our inner needs are not getting met. And we're so busy concentrating on everything else. So learning how to say no, it's okay. And then learning how to do it without a big long explanation. And I think there's a fine line with that, because you don't want to be rude, of course, and just somebody say no and that's it. But I've learned to say things like, no, I'm just going to pass this time.
Pass.
Or my other one, and it is true, I'll say sometime, depending on what it is, no, but let me pray about that. And I will pray about it. I won't just say that, but
Right.
but it gives time, and then people have to respect that. And even when you say no and someone is upset about it, always remember that you're not responsible for someone else's emotions and how they respond to you. You're not intentionally, of course, trying to, cause someone to be hurt or upset, but you're not responsible for how they react. We don't want to just be out here all willy-nilly hurting people's feelings, but we do have to realize that however they respond that's with them. So we have to be able to stand up for ourselves and take care of us by saying no, so that we can concentrate on the things that are important to us.
I think Licia made a comment. Am I saying your name right? I'm sorry.
She's on mute.
Oh, somebody else joined. I'm looking. Oh yeah, I see. Bless Licia.
Yeah, it's me.
Were you making a comment or no? You good? She must be okay. Okay. So learn how to say no and without an explanation. So the second way to care for your inner self, one of many ways.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I was trying to make this is Lisa. I'm sorry.
No, hi. Yes.
Yeah. No, I had to learn to just say no is a complete sentence. That's it.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say that you don't want to be rude, but depending on, again, a part of taking care of yourself, because I actually had learned this in therapy, that no, sometimes you just have to say no is a complete sentence. So just saying the word no is it sometimes.
Yeah. And like I said, you can't really be responsible for how someone receives that.
That's it.
Yeah, if you can't do it, you can't do it.
Yep.
And you're entitled to that. So
yeah, because for a long time, about me being the only child, I had to do everything. But as an adult, only in the last 5 years, I've learned to say, no, it's okay if I don't do it, somebody else can.
And
it will get done.
And are you okay when you say it? When you say
yeah,
no?
I am now. I am. Because again, I put myself out there so much. 5 years ago, I had a stroke and open heart surgery. So therefore I was on my back, but things got done. So that told me and showed me that because I didn't do it, other people, it still got done, that it's okay for me to say no today.
Right. And thank you for sharing that. And the reason I asked you, are you okay with it, is because so we could learn how to do this, right? And say no. But
yeah, I mean,
I
let me tell you something. I actually have that in writing in my bedroom and on my in some of my rooms in my complete office. No, and I put them up on in bold dark writing. I typed them and taped them up there and say no. It's a complete sentence. And my son, he came out. He's like, "What's up with this, man? He doesn't live here. He's grown." He came. He's like, "What's up with these?" I said, "Exactly what you're reading. No, it's a complete sentence." And they get it now. Because,
and
when I was sick, I couldn't do anything. So when I say no, it's still no.
Well, I'm proud of you, because no means no. No means no. And the reason I asked you, I asked her, was she okay with it? Because sometimes we'll say no, but then we'll worry
Feel bad about it. No.
Crystal will overthink it. after we
Yeah.
say no, right? And just worry about it. So that kind of defeats the purpose. But it takes time, especially when you've been doing this for a long time. It takes
Mhm.
time. So number one, we're learning how to say no. Number two, determine your values. What really matters to you in life? This is such a key in caring for your inner self, because just like on the prior slide where Steve Jobs said you can't concentrate on what matters to you if you're not saying no to some things. So we have to determine what is really important to us, what do we value, and how do we get more of it in our life. Once to me, that's really what self-care is for me, learning what's important to me, and then getting more of it by staying in my lane, doing what I need to do for me and for others, the things that I choose. But sometimes we as women, as all of us, a lot of us have said, we've been caring for parents, we've been raising children, we've been the youngest or oldest child, and we're doing everything for everybody else. So we don't get time to figure out what we value. We don't even know what is important. What do I really love? So I would like to take about 90 seconds, and I'd like you to look at this list and write down 10, at about 10 items that are important to you, that jump out to you on this list. So we'll just take about 90 seconds to do that. Okay, so if you had a chance to write down some things that stuck out to you, that you value and are important to you, now for, I guess this week, I'll challenge you to answer this question. So write this question down. Now that you have looked at some things and you say, okay, I value hard work, or I value spiritual growth, or I value excellence. The question I want you to ask yourself is, how is my life not aligned with these values? Not how is it, but how is my life not aligned with these values? So what the point of that is to have you kind of think through, okay, are these things that I said are important to me, are they a part of my life? Am I not noticing? Am I not paying attention? Am I too busy focusing on what other people's needs are, that I'm not getting some of my own needs met? And there are probably so many other values that aren't listed here that you may, even think about yourselves. But the question becomes, well, if these are things that I say are important to me and that I value, how is my life not aligned with them? So I can align it, so I can get it aligned. This is really just all about focusing on what is important to you. Was it difficult for anybody to recognize things on this list that they value? Did things jump out? Were there things you hadn't thought about? And if it's things that, you know, was somebody going to say something?
This is Carla. It wasn't difficult, but I was shocked. Like I believe in the fruit of the spirit, which is love, joy, peace, you know, faithfulness, goodness, all that. But
Mhm.
right away, my mind jumped to authenticity,
Mhm.
humor,
Mhm.
compassion,
Mhm.
joy, you know, because now that I'm home more, these are the things, family, love, fun, you
Mhm.
know, of course, excellence. But it's funny how all I'm trying to say is my values haven't changed, but they have evolved since I'm retired,
Yes, evolved. Yes. Yep.
if
You
that's
have
the
the right
right
word.
word.
It
Yeah.
it is. Yep. That makes so much sense. And you mentioned, like, I think I heard you mention humor and fun, right?
Mhm.
So that's the question. You know, if that's so important to me, is my life reflecting that? Because if it's not, I need to get more humor and fun in my life. So if I value that and I'm getting it, I'm going to be fulfilled, more fulfilled. And I think, Carla, that's what you're saying. It's evolving to that.
Yes, amen. And the funny, you picked out those two things. I wasn't having humor and fun in my life.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I had the authentic, and I'm more authentic now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I had the um, it was so a lot of other words. You know, the hard work and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But was I enjoying myself? Was I really, you know?
Yes.
So I have to work on having fun and humor,
All right.
um, but still do my affirmations and all that other stuff, all the fruit of the spirit,
Yes.
the
Yes.
spiritual stuff. But now I need to have a little laughter
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, we got to remember laughter is a good medicine. It's medicine for the soul. But so again, use some of those things you wrote down from this list. If there are other things that weren't here, jot those down too, and then kind of start looking at your life throughout the days and weeks to come to say, well, I gotta get time to get this back in my life, because that's what's gonna make you feel fulfilled. That's how your needs are gonna be met, and that always goes back to keeping our stress down and our anxiety, because our needs are getting met. So, okay, so that was two. So first we've said, I can't, what was the first one, Crystal? I can't remember right now. Oh, you're on mute.
Learn to say no.
Learn to say no.
Yes, I'm
Right.
sorry.
Right. Learn how to say no. And then we got to determine our values, what's important to us.
Right.
And then I think, Crystal, you mentioned this in the beginning, creating healthy boundaries.
Boundaries. Yes.
What is that? So what does that mean? What does this mean to someone? Creating healthy boundaries. What is a boundary? Anyone?
A boundary is a boundary can be a line or invisible wall that you place where you don't allow people to, like for me, I don't want people to disrupt my joy or disrupt my peace. So I
Mhm.
set boundaries around.
Mhm.
I have my inner circle of friends and then I have my outer circle of friends. And I don't allow them to, or anybody outside those circles, you know, to mess up my inner peace. That's a boundary.
Yeah, that's what it is too. It's there are limits, really, limits that you place on people and things around you, so that you, like Carla said, so that your peace doesn't get stolen, so that your joy doesn't get taken away from you, so that there's self-respect that you're feeling that remains, that you are taking care of you. So these healthy boundaries are so important in our relationships. I always say that a healthy boundary is really the ultimate display of self respect. Once you are comfortable with setting boundaries with people and not allowing them to treat you in a certain way, that's going to show, that's self respect right there. Now, you create boundaries. Some people may not like it. And typically, the people who react the heaviest or the with the most doing the most to boundaries are usually the people that you really need to set a boundary with. The
Mhm.
people who don't like it are always the ones that you probably really need to set a boundary with, because they've gotten accustomed to you saying yes and doing things that you may not want to do.
Right.
So having limits in our life is so important, and it's difficult sometimes to create these boundaries. But once, you'll see there on the right hand side the phases of setting a boundary. Establish it, whatever this boundary is. I will not allow you to X. You determine what the boundary is that's needed with someone. Then you state it. You got to communicate it. And then you got to commit to it and
Yes.
stick to it. That's the issue. Is I set this boundary, but then I let you violate it, and then we set it again and I let you violate it again. So that person doesn't really believe it's a boundary, and it just keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So being assertive with the boundary, learning to say no, here we go again, learning to say no, and safeguarding your space. There is nothing wrong with setting reasonable and healthy limits. Now, some boundaries, so we can set like 3 kind of boundaries. One is too loose, like the boundary is just too loose. We just let anything happen, right? But then we can set a boundary that's too tight, too rigid. So you can't let anybody in, but you can't get out either. It's just too much. You're just too much in your own. So that balance is the healthy boundary that we want to set. Not too loose and not too rigid, but healthy. Crystal, I see your hand raised.
Yes, so I can say that me personally, I'm kind of like at a where I'm used to always being the one to do stuff and say yes. And even when I really didn't want to do it or really didn't feel like doing something, I would still just go along with it. Just getting along to get along. And so now I'm learning to how to say no again, like Alicia said, in a complete sentence, no more explanation needed. And in setting these boundaries, it was hard in the beginning, and sometimes it still is a little bit hard, but I noticed that it's getting easier. It's getting easier for me to say, no, I can't do that, or no, I don't want to do that, and leaving it there rather than me feeling a way afterwards, like almost feeling guilty or sorry, or like then I'm trying to put the other person's needs in front of mine and trying to make excuses like, okay, well, maybe I can just go ahead and, I tend to have done that a lot. So the more and more I do it, the more and more I kind of set my tone, like now I'm trying to get exercise in. So I say from 4 to 6, listen, guys, from 4 to 6 is my time to get my exercise in and do what I need to do for me. If you call me between 4 and 6, I'm not going to answer my phone or calls. I'll leave my phone on, but I'm not going to answer it, or that's my time to dedicate. So it's almost like you're setting the tone of normally I would say, please don't, almost like you're kind of pleading with somebody.
Right.
Don't call me between 4 to 6 or ask me to do something between 4 to 6. But now it's kind of like just a statement. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, don't call me between 4 and 6, because that's the time that I'm doing my own self-care for sanity, for my physical well-being, emotional or spiritual well-being, whichever 3 it may pertain to. Stopping giving those explanations of why I need that boundary in place. So it's hard sometimes, but it's easier for me to do it.
Yes, it's not an easy thing always, but now you sounds like you went from just kind of these loose boundaries to being more assertive, right? So let me ask everyone too, like, so when you don't set boundaries, so Crystal, like you explained all the time you went and didn't set a boundary, but now you are. Why do we not set boundaries? That's
wanting to be me. For me, I'll speak for me. I don't like to ruffle waters. I don't like to ruffle waters. I get, in my feelings if somebody's mad at me, or upset, or if it upset them, and if they've kind of like, well, if you would have done this, then, it's like putting it back on me. Like if I had did it, then maybe you wouldn't be in your predicament. But so I have to kind of like learn how to like reverse that. Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're putting a little bit too much of your responsibility for your life onto me. that
Right.
I have no control over.
No control.
So that's a hard kind of fine line to kind of like set with people, especially family members,
Yes. Hard.
especially family members.
Boundaries. Harder
Oh my
sometimes.
God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was just, so next Saturday I do have to attend a family event. And someone asked me, you know how we were doing our self-care Saturdays?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going to leave my house until 1. And I had like 10 questions after that, like, why can't you leave till 1? Why can't you leave until 1? And I said, because I can't leave until 1.
Mm-hmm.
My house at 1.
Yes.
I mean, I had to say that, like, I was like, why do I have to keep saying this like 10 times? I'm leaving my house at 1 o'clock. Why does, you know,
Yeah.
if you have to do something before that, then you have to figure out how to take care of that. But I'm not leaving my house until 1 o'clock.
One. Right. So that's why
so-
we have, that's why we have to set the boundaries, because people
Yeah.
often have unrealistic expectations of us. And if we're not careful, we just let it all go. And, you know, sometimes we don't set boundaries too because of fear of rejection. We fear, you know, that someone is going to be upset with us, or, you know, in a relationship, oh, well, if I set this boundary, he might leave me. And, you know, there's so much fear. And all of that goes back to our level of self-confidence and self-esteem in ourselves. If we're feeling good about who we are, and we know who we want to be, that whole understand who you are to be who you want to be, we're not going to worry as much about that, because we're going to be confident in our own skin and realize that this person got to do what that person got to do. But that's why, I mean, even in my own life, I questioned myself over some different things, like, why did I not set a boundary there? And I think it goes back to fear. It goes back to the outcome and me not feeling confident in myself. So that's, you know, and Crystal, you know, that's something I talk about a lot, is the self-esteem, and how we have to get it to a point that we're feeling confident, so that what other people do around us, it won't change our whole life. We can still keep moving. So creating healthy boundaries is so important. Carla, I see your hand raised. Is
Yeah.
that Eagles fan?
Yes.
All right, now, me too. I'm from Jersey.
Okay, I set boundaries, not Eagles. You can't come. No, just kidding.
Okay.
But I had a comment to that, and ask a question too.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes it's hard, at least for me, to set boundaries with a family member, or even a guy that you're dealing with, a man. I'm not married, so maybe somebody I'm involved with. And that's a little harder too, because then your emotions get in and take over. But I will say Judy and Crystal have been really good, because one, I forgot Crystal's 4 to 6 things. So I apologize, Crystal. But
That was a
I know, but I forgot. No, but as I was going to make it into this segue though, as friends though, sometimes our loved ones and our close friends, we might have to, like, sometimes be a little bit more direct, because we'll forget. Like, I forgot about Crystal's 4 to 6, right? And Judy is a good example. I'm gonna use you, Sister Judy. So Judy and I would be on the phone all the time during the whole presidential 45 terms, 4 years. I mean, during COVID. And we were on the phone 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We couldn't sleep. We had the COVID sleep syndrome. And then Judy said, after 46 got nominated, she said, I'm going to bed now at 12 o'clock. Okay. So I pushed the boundary. I knew she said 12 o'clock, but I called her at 12:30. Then I called her 12:50. And then something said, you know what? Okay, you got to respect her. She wants to go to bed at midnight. And then I started doing it. You know, I slipped up a couple times, but for the most part, I've been good, haven't I, Judy? I've been good.
Yes, I don't answer the phone.
Yeah, but I've been good though, right? I haven't called.
No,
Yeah.
maybe a couple times, but that's it. You know.
Yeah, I've been good though.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
good. So what I'm saying is I feel her pain, and I have to respect that, because she is in my inner circle. They are in my inner circle. But I think sometimes it's harder when that person is right close to you, because we feel like we can, but you can't. And then I have to set my own boundaries with my my favorite cousin, who calls me at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I had to say, no, just because I'm up wide awake, I don't want to talk. So it didn't click. And I said, well, that's what Judy and Crystal was saying. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I just say, my question is, so now you set these boundaries, and just like Etta was saying, how do you do that at work though? See what I'm saying? Like, how do you set that boundary at work and say no at work and create the healthy boundary? That's a whole nother chapter, Miss Bridges. I don't know how you, I still never figured that out.
Yeah, it's
That's a,
challenging, but it's not impossible. And it's funny you say this. So I have an example. I don't work there anymore, but I was working at a, you know, major corporation. And so my answer to your question really is about sometimes it's by example, really, that you're creating the boundary at work, because work is a little more sensitive, you know, the way you respond to people. So for example, I guess apparently I set this boundary by example, where if people were somewhere in a conversation and there was a lot of cursing and a lot of just crazy talk and things that were, you know, that I felt inappropriate. So one time I remember going into a break room, and I guess some of this conversation was going on, and somebody said, "Oh, Cheryl just came in, let's just chill," right? And the good thing about it was, even after that, there was no, they weren't upset with me. There was just respect that said, and I hadn't had the conversation with them, but they knew that that's her boundary. She's not into that. So let's just chill. And it wasn't, they weren't upset. We just started talking about something else, and later on it was fine. So maybe they didn't like the fact that they had to stop the conversation for me, but they respected it. And so that's, I think that's the difference, Carla. Sometimes it's just at work by example, treading a little bit differently. And then sometimes at work, it's speaking up too, depending on what
and
the
I,
situation is.
Yeah.
it is hard. That's kind of one of the reasons I left my other office in Norfolk, was because I was working with a Karen.
Not Karen. Not Karen.
Poor Karen.
I'm being as nice as possible here,
Yeah.
with a Karen, who felt that she can disrespect me, belittle me, put me down, and that I was supposed to just take it because she was having a bad day. She caught me on a day, and I'm a Philadelphia girl. So I had to explain to her in terms that she will understand, back down, get out my face. And it was very hard for her to even conceive that, because usually at work I have a different personality. Teamwork, let's get it done, knock it out. But when you start threatening my job, you belittling me and my work ethic, that's when the no become a stern no with an exclamation point on it. And that day she got it.
Yeah. Sometimes.
And then from that day on, I knew was not my place to be around that, because it made me look at myself and see how much that was affecting me. So I had to make a change.
Yes, that is excellent, because that's what these 3 points say on this screen is what you did. You were assertive, you said no, and you safeguarded your space. And sometimes, yes, to Carla's question again, sometimes it does require at work being a little assertive, speaking up. You can't fight every battle, of course, but you'll know in your gut when it's time to say something.
Congratulations, Etta. I know how hard that was at our job.
And I think she said something really, really key too.
It is.
When she said she recognized how that situation affected her personally.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yep. Judy, did you have your hand?
Yes, I was going to say, sometimes at work it's difficult because sometimes the supervisor, you're not the supervisor, and people who are kind of getting under your skin, especially with the profanity, because I worked at the airport, and let me tell you, you would think that we were professional and the people at the ticket counter. No, you go back in the back and they are just so unprofessional. So and it was the younger kids though, I noticed. But anyway, what I did was we had a cuss cup. So the supervisors didn't really say anything to these kids. And so I said, we're going to have a cuss cup. Every time I hear a cuss word, we're putting some money in. I mean, you're going to have to pay up, because I can't work under these. I mean, and we weren't out front, we were in the back. So, they didn't think that it was important to be respectful behind the door, you
Yeah.
know?
So
So
you,
so sometimes when the supervisor is not really doing, it's hard for somebody who's just a worker bee to get the respect that the supervisor should really be, stepping up.
mm-hmm.
So I just let's get the Cuss Cup going. So, and they raised some money, but it's still, I didn't want to. I'm not working there anymore now, so I don't miss that.
I'm sure you don't, I'm sure. But you were assertive, there was a way
Yeah, I
you
have to
had
do
to
that.
do something.
Yeah.
And that's the key with boundaries is establishing it, stating it, communicating it, and being assertive and committing to it. Because if we're wishy-washy, there's no point in setting a boundary.
Right, right,
Yep.
right.
So very good. So we've learned to say no. We determine what is important to us and our values. We have to create healthy boundaries, and we also have to be present. Be present. Being present just means being in the moment. Um, Being present, balancing our past, present, and future thoughts. On Saturday, Crystal and I yesterday talked about overthinking and how much trouble that can get us into. So we talked about something called ruminating, which is just replaying all of these things that happened in the past. And I wonder, should I? And if I had done that. And then we talked about persistent worrying, which is worrying about the future. And I wonder what it's going to be the next time. And I wonder if this happens. So trying to balance that, by being present right now, focusing on we can't focusing on the past too much really is not helping us because we can't change it, right? And then focusing on the future too much is not helpful because we can't control it. But the present, yeah, let's be in the present and keep our mind on things that we are focusing on right now. So balancing our thoughts. Another way of being present is practicing gratitude. And why is that? Being present, being in the moment, is because when I'm grateful for what I have right now, I'm not really worried about stuff in the past or in the future or what anybody else has. I'm grateful for what I have and what God has blessed me with right now, my family, my friends, whatever those things are, I'm grateful for. So I've really learned that just being grateful and trying to stay in that mindset prevents me from worrying about the past and worrying about the future. Um, take a break from
Oh,
technology.
oh, oh,
Yay!
that's a tough one.
Ah, I don't even probably need to talk about this. You all know exactly what this means. Just
Yes.
taking a break. When we're on
Woo.
social media too much, we start comparing ourselves. We start not being grateful because we don't have what so and so has. And, Crystal's showing her house, and I'm going, oh, I've always wanted that too, but I don't have it. And oh my gosh. And then Etta shows the new car that she bought and puts that out there. And my car I'm clunking around in. And, so it's tough. It's tough. I mean, there's a lot more to that. We should be able to handle that. But if you can't handle that, then take a break from that. If you know that's a trigger for you, leave some of that alone for a little while. The news, the news, the news, the news. Try to resist that urge to watch that news all day long, because those are the things that take us into past and future thoughts. So sometimes just taking a little break from technology helps us to stay present. And then visualize your goals. Like, if you know what you have to do for today, when you get up in the morning sometime, just visualize it. Think about, okay, today I need to do A, B, and C. And just keep that in your mind with the things that you're working on for your daily goal, rather than worrying about the stuff you didn't do 2 weeks ago that's still hanging over, and the stuff that I know I need to do, but I don't think I have time to get to it. Um, there's a whole there's a whole lot in there when we can just visualize our daily goals. And this is not in my presentation, but it just came to me like, so when we think about all the stuff we have to do, right? Things that are hanging over our heads and haven't been done yet. They are called, I know it's going to sound funny, but they're called nuts. NUT. They are nagging, unfinished tasks. So I know we can have a lot of nuts hanging over our head, things that we're like, oh, I know I need to do this. I know I need to start filing these papers away. I know I need to get on these taxes. Oh, and we're just ruminating and worrying over all of this stuff. So, the key is to kind of think about some of these nuts, these nagging unfinished tasks that you have going on, and decide one of three things that you're going to do with these. There's only three choices I'm going to give you. You're going to do it, you're going to delegate it, or you're going to dump it. That's it. So make a decision. Is this something I can just go ahead and say I'm going to do it? Is this something that I could delegate? Maybe I got a teenager in the house and I need to delegate this to him to move these boxes that I've been looking at for 6 months. Or maybe this is something I can just dump. Maybe I don't have to do it at all. Maybe I've just been worrying about this for no reason. It's not that important. I'm getting rid of it. So do it, delegate it, or dump it. So I would encourage you to think about some of those tasks that we've been procrastinating on, and make a decision. And it helps you to care for your inner self, because I'm now accomplishing things. I'm feeling more motivated. I'm feeling better about things because I'm getting stuff done. Um, Sometimes, too, when we have a lot of physical clutter in our areas, maybe that stuff needs to be handled. A cluttered physical space
Mhm.
can cause a cluttered mental space.
Yes.
Often it will just clutter, clutter, clutter. So sometimes we have to look at that clutter and say, do it, delegate it, or dump it. One or the other. One of those three. So good luck with that task. I'm challenging you all. Okay, so we have talked about learning to say no. We talked about the importance of determining our values. Talked about creating healthy boundaries. We talked about being present, trying to stay in the moment. And the last one way to care for your inner self is understanding your temperament, being able to understand your temperament. That temperament says, why do I act the way that I do? Like, do you ever wonder why you might be driving in the car and somebody cuts you off and you just, boom, you go from 0 to 100 in like a second? Or you're driving with somebody who they get cut off and they're driving and it doesn't bother them. Like, what's the difference? Why does that not bother them? Why do I not like to swim? Why am I afraid of the water? There's so many things like why do we do that? And it's because of our temperament. So our temperament is our natural disposition. It's the way in which you will consistently behave. It's your God-given traits you were born with. So understanding self and why you act the way you do can contribute so much to us, just kind of being who we're supposed to be, being who God would have us be, being our best self. So, hint, hint, when we have the Self Care Sunday in March, this is what I'm going to talk about: how to understand your temperament. So we'll go into more depth on that, but there's basically four types of temperaments that I'll cover, and this is how we are. This is why we do what we do. So the good thing about understanding your temperament is not having to question anymore. Why do I do that? Okay, this is why you do it. But is it something that I need to do differently? Is it something I need to modify? Can I be better than this? Can I control my anger when somebody cuts in front of me? All of these things. So in March we'll talk about that topic of temperament, and I know, as a matter of fact, you will find it very, very interesting. When I learned what my temperament was, it just kind of opened my mind to realize, okay, this is why I do what I do, but some of this stuff I got to do a little better on. So it's really it's a self-awareness. It helps you to understand who you are so you can understand who you want to be. And a lot of us are living in the middle there, in that gap between knowing who we are and knowing who we want to be. Sometimes we live in that middle zone because we don't know exactly why we do what we do. So I know that you'll find that very interesting as well. So we talked about 5 ways: learning how to say no and without an explanation, creating healthy boundaries, determining your values. And I want you all to look at those things you wrote down and say, am I getting these things in my life if these are important to me? Talked about being present, just being in the moment, not trying to worry too much about the past, which we can't change, or the future, which we can't control. And then finally, understanding our temperament, understanding why we behave the way we do. And we'll talk more about that the next time. So, just my last little comment is, how to care for yourself. So, we're talking about ourselves. So, we need to seek to learn as much as we can about ourselves. We need to examine our values, which is that activity that we've talked about today. And then, after we learn and we look at our values and leverage what you learn, do something with it, and then focus on what matters. So we have to first learn about who we are. Let's take a look at what I value. Once I know it, do something about it, and then focus on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is it. And I think that's all of what I had. So comments, questions.
What was leverage?
Um,
Oh, leverage what you learn.
leverage
Okay,
what you learn.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
thank you.
And then focus on what matters. So,
Cheryl,
Crystal, thoughts?
excellent. Thank you so much. Every time we come together to talk about any kind of aspect of self-care, I learn something new every time. And so thank you for just kind of breaking this down for us and, coming to share this hour with us for our self-care. I can't wait to talk a little bit more about temperament because I think in the clubhouse on Saturday that wasn't there a lady who asked about could her temperament be changed?
Yes, she sure did. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. And I did some kind of further kind of research, and the consistent answer seemed to be no.
No, sorry, ladies. Our temperament can't be changed.
That's interesting. That's very
It
interesting. So
really is. It is.
I'll save it for next time, but I'm
Mhm.
interested to hear more about that because I think sometimes we think we can change our temperaments.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but oh, Netta, you go, girl. Look at that head.
Girl,
Ah, working. We've been working on
we
that.
just
You got it. Condition.
we just doing phase 2 now. Woo.
Ah,
Self-care.
self-care at its best. Self-care during the self-care.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Looking good. Looking
Love
if
it.
my
good.
daughter saw you
Thank
right now,
you.
she would love what she would love your curl pattern. She's
Yeah,
all
Yes.
it looks good. It looks really good too.
yes. Go girl. So, but thank you so much, Cheryl. Again, like I said, I learn something every time I'm talking to you, and every time we kind of have these self-care chats. I really hope that the ladies have, learned some new things, some new ways
Yes.
of going about and thinking about this, and how you can incorporate it into your own daily lives. So, I hope it's helpful for everybody.
Okay. That is it for me. All right. Thank
you
you,
so
ladies.
much.
Yes, you are
Thank
welcome.
you.
It was
Thank you so much.
so nice to meet everyone, and look forward to doing Self-Care Sunday again.
Okay.
All right.
That was
And
awesome.
it looks like Lucille joined late. Thank you so much for joining, Lucille. I see you there.
Oh, yes, I saw someone else join. Yes.
Hey, Lucille. Hey, Leisha. Leisha's my friend. Hi, Leisha.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
that was awesome. Thank you, Miss Bridges. That was really good.
Yes,
Really.
you are welcome.
Hi, how are you? Yeah, thanks, caller, for I picked up the link from, I guess, your Pamper Chef party.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was
on
like,
there.
yeah, this is something I would be interested in because I definitely do. It was so much I could have said, but I was riding with my grandbaby and my daughter coming from the store, so I didn't say much. But Next time I'll make sure that I have my time. Because my time, when y'all was saying about boundaries and stuff, though, I know it's almost over, but what I do say is everybody knows. I say it after 8 o'clock, please do not disturb me, period. I'm done for the day.
All right now.
I shut down. My mind, my body, everything shuts down at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Whatever can't get done between the time I get up, time I go to bed, oh well, it won't be done, period.
Right. Right.
And there's
Thank
no exceptions unless there's a dire emergency. You know,
Yeah.
you just have to be very assertive, and they know.
Yeah.
No means no. My time is my time, and anything in between, I'll do anything I can for you. But you know, you do have to set your boundaries, and the main thing is no means no. Thank you.
Thank you
Yes.
for that.
Without guilt-free, without guilt.
But no, because you know what?
Wait, who is that?
You-
speaking?
You have to, because if you don't, then you will drag yourself. So you'll build up resentment because you're doing things now that you no longer really want to do. You're just doing it to please other people. And when you continue to displease other people and let yourself be, then you build up resentment, and then you just want to snap off on somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know,
agree.
and then you're building up a whole lot of unnecessary, stuff that sooner or later's got to come out. So it's best to just deal with it, and they get used to it.
That's
When
a
you
whole-
say it it gets better as it goes, but the people around you will get used to it and be like, you know what? We already know.
Exactly.
Mhm.
that's a whole.
And you still love them. You still love them. You don't love them no less, and they know that. But it also makes a healthy relationship for them, especially if you have children. But
Yes.
if you set your boundaries and know that you stick to it, especially girls, I raise girls. So they know it's okay to say no. That's to boys, to drugs, to this, to that, whatever else.
Mhm.
No means no, period. If can you do it in front of God? Then if you can't, then it's no.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's just the way it is.
Thank you for that. That's a whole word of wisdom right there. Appreciate that.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Miss Bridges. I really appreciate you. That
Yes,
was
you are welcome. Glad we could do it. Don't forget, look at your what is it? Nagging unfinished tasks.
Yes.
Do it
Yes.
delegated or dump it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Crystal, for everything. That's awesome.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm just so appreciative of your time. I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks, Lucille. I see your message. Thanks so much. Hopefully you'll join us on March 21st, Cheryl?
March 21st. Yes.
March 21st. So we're going to do March 21st, and then we're going to be back on April 21st, and then we'll have a little break in between. But hopefully these monthly sessions you'll get something out of it. I'm certainly getting a lot out of it. And Cheryl is just going to bless us with her expertise and knowledge and just help us live, ladies, live. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Take care. Nice to
Okay.
meet everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Etta, you look beautiful.
Thank you, Pookie. Miss you.
Miss you too.